That he did. And as a result, the story relates bold changes that came about from it for Hopeful and some others, for they were converted as a result of his death. Mr. Honest begged Greatheart to continue because he was well acquainted with many of the details he hadn't heard until now. Greatheart smiled. Once Christian passed through Vanity Fair, he met with other difficulties and people, including one By-Ends, who was an arch foe. Mr. Honest's brow wrinkled. By-Ends? Who was he? A very haughty fellow and a downright hypocrite. He is one who shifts his religious views to line up with whichever way the world goes. But he is so cunning that he makes sure he never loses profit or suffers for it. He had made his mode of religion for every fresh occasion, and his wife was as good at it as he. He flip-flops from one opinion to another and appeals to others to do the same. But as far as I know, he came to a bad end with his selfish motives. I didn't ever hear of any of his children truly coming to fear God either. As far as I know, none of them amounted to anything, even by the world's standards. Now, by this time they came within sight of the town of Vanity. When they saw they were so near to the town, they talked over how they should pass through the town. Some suggested one thing, and others something different. At last, Mr. Greatheart said, I have often guided pilgrims through this town, as you know. For this reason, I am acquainted with one Mr. Mnason, a man originally from Cyprus, who is an old disciple. Some of the disciples from Caesarea also came with us, taking us to Mnason of Cyprus, a disciple of long standing, with whom we were to lodge. Acts chapter 21, verse 16. We may lodge at his house. If you think that a good option, we will turn in there. Old Honest smiled. I'm content to do that. Christiana agreed. Mr. Feeblemind was content to stay there, and in the same way they all agreed. Now you might have guessed it was evening by the time they reached the outskirts of the town, but Greatheart knew the way to the old man's house. So they went there, and Greatheart called at the door, and the old man inside recognized his voice. He quickly opened the door, and they all went inside. Their host, Mnason, said, How far have you travelled today? We have travelled from the house of Gaius, our friend. I declare, Mnason said. You have covered a lot of ground. You must be weary. Come, sit down. So they eagerly sat down with thanks. Their guide, Greatheart, said, What a warm welcome, Mnason. He motioned for the others to come in. Come, this is my friend. He welcomes you all. Yes, I do, Mnason said. Whatever you want, just ask for it, and we will do what we can to get it for you. Mr. Honest said, Our greatest need is lodging and good company, and now I hope we have both. Mnason smiled. As for lodging, you can see for yourself what it is, but as for good company, that will come about with time and a little effort. Are you willing to have pilgrims stay here? Mnason nodded. I am. So he led them to their respective places and showed them a very clean upper room, where they might gather to enjoy each other's company and eat together until it was time for bed. Now, they were seated in their places around the table and were in a good mood after their journey. Mr. Honest asked his landlord, Mnason, if there were any amount of good people in the town. We have a few, he shrugged, but they are far less compared with them who live on the other side. Mr. Honest asked, Is there any way we can go to visit some of them? For the finding of other good men, for those who are on pilgrimage, is like the appearance of the moon and stars to those sailing upon the seas. Mnason stamped with his foot, and his daughter Grace came up. He said, Grace, go tell my friends, Mr. Contrite, Mr. Holy Man, Mr. Love Saints, Mr. Dare Not Lie, and Mr. Penitent, that I have a friend or two at my house who have the desire to see them this evening. So Grace left the house and went to call them. In a short time, they all came, and after introductions and greetings were exchanged, they sat down together at the table. Mnason, their landlord, addressed them all. My neighbors, as you see, I have a group of strangers who have come to my house. They are pilgrims who come from far away, and they are going to Mount Zion. But who do you think this is? He pointed his finger at Christiana. It is Christiana, the wife of Christian, the famous pilgrim who, with Faithful, his brother, was so shamefully treated in his town. His neighbors stood amazed. They said, We never expected to see Christiana when Grace came to call us to your home. What a pleasant surprise! They asked Christiana about her welfare, and if the young men with her were her husband's sons. When she told them that they were, they said, May the king, whom you love and serve, make you young men like your father, and bring you where he is in peace. Once they had all sat down, Mr. Honest asked Mr. Contrite and the rest about the current situation in their town. Mr. Contrite said, You can be sure we are fully immersed in the flurry of fair time. It makes it difficult to keep our hearts and spirits in good order when we are in such a troubled and grieved condition. Those of us who live in such places as this land, who have to regularly deal with all the things that go on here, need to be reminded every moment of the day to be careful and pay attention to our spiritual health. How are your neighbors now? Are things quiet? Are you free from agitation stirred by high emotions? Mr. Honest asked. Mr. Contrite said, They are much more restrained now than they were before. You know how Christian and Faithful were treated in our town. But lately, I'd say, they have become far more reserved and less aggressive. I think the blood of Faithful is like a load upon them still to this day, for since they burned him, they have been ashamed to burn anyone else. In those days, when Christian visited us, we were afraid to walk the street, but now we can show our heads without fear. Back then, the title of genuine Christian was odious, but now, especially in some parts of our large town, religion is considered honorable. Then Mr. Contrite asked the pilgrims of their own welfare. He said, Please tell me how things have fared with you thus far on your pilgrimage, and tell me about the country through which you travelled and how the people reacted towards you. Mr. Honest said, The same things happened to us as happened to all wayfaring men. Sometimes our way was free of trouble, sometimes it was dangerous, sometimes uphill, and sometimes downhill. We never knew what to expect with any certainty. The wind is not always at our backs, nor is every person we meet a friend within the way. We have met with some notable difficulties already, and while that is behind us, for the most part, we find that old saying true, that all who desire to live godly in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 12. You talk of difficulties, Mr. Contrite said. What difficulties have you met along with the rest of it? Mr. Honest shook his head. I'm not the one to ask. For the best account, ask Greatheart, our guide. Greatheart didn't hesitate to answer. He said, We have all been afflicted with difficulties 3 or 4 times already. First, Christiana and her children were tormented by 2 thugs, and they feared they would be murdered. We have been harassed by Giant Bloodyman, Giant Maul, and Giant Slaygood. For the last, we turned the circumstances in our favor, and instead of harming us, we attacked him and escaped.